Good afternoon, children. Myself, Srishel Sangoti. So, this year I am going to handle for the seventh section, social science subject. Right. So, today is the first day we are going to start our portion. Right. So, as you know, in the social science, there are three sections. The first one is history, geography, and political life. Right. So, here what happens, children? First, I will start my chapters with the history section, right? So in the history, first we want to know about overall the history, right? So history, you got the meaning already. The history is nothing but the study of past, the events past, whatever happens, so till today. So the studying of our past moments, past events, so that is called as past. So, the last year, whatever you have studied in our complete Indian history, so history we can make three parts. The first one is ancient history, the medieval history, then another one is the modern history. Right? So, if you think about your academic years, 6th, 7th, and 8th, right? So, what happened, children, here? In the 6th, whatever we have studied the history, that is all about the ancient history, right? So whatever this year you people are studying, so this is our medieval history. Then next year in 8th standard, whatever you are going to study in your future, so that is the modern history, right? In the sense, Indian history, how many types we can divide, children? So we can divide the three parts of history, so ancient, medieval, and the modern. So what is medieval history? So in this year, as I told you, in this year 7th class, we are completely going to study about our medieval history. Then exactly what is medieval? So medieval is in between of the ancient and in between of the modern. So the modern and ancient, the between time period or a time history is called as the medieval history, right? So whatever the portion you do have in this year as a portion, right? So that is completely in this year. So history, we are going to study about the medieval history, right? So now I will start my first chapter from the history, right? So the chapter first, right? So what happens? The name of our chapter is trees, tracing changes through 1,000 years, right? Tracing changes through 1,000 years, right? So actually, first, before teaching, we should understand. So what is the heading of the lesson, right? Then what is the heading? Tracing changes through 1,000 years. So in the sense, what, children? So if you compare today, how we people are living today as present, so compare to 1,000 years back, right? So in this lesson, what we are studying, children, from the ago 1,000 years, how the history has got changed with the time, right? So for this reason, the tracing changes through the 1,000 years, right? What are the changes we have got compared to the last 1,000 years, right? So this is the concept of our chapter. So what happens in this chapter? What are the particular sub points? What completely in this chapter we are going to study, in the sense, so in this chapter we are going to study about new and old terminology. new and old terminologies. Then the second point, we are going to study about historians and their source. Then our next point of the lesson is new social and political groups. Right. So our next fourth point is the religion and empire. Then our last point and fifth point of the lesson is the old and new regime. Old and new religion. Right. So this is the brief introduction of our chapter, children. So in this chapter, first we are going to study about new and old terminologies, then the historian and their sources, the new social and political groups, then the religion and empire, then the old and new religion. So these are the main 5 points we are going to discuss in this whole chapter, right? So after the introduction, so what happens, children? So after the introduction of the lesson, so let's begin the chapter with some examples, right? So whatever the examples in through your textbook, right? In your textbook, if you open first chapter, they have given 2 maps, right? So they have given the 2 different maps. So if we see, right? So what here, children? By seeing the 2 maps, what we can get to know? So we can get to know several changes, right? If you observe the maps for the first page and second page, so you can understand what kind of changes are there in the map, right? So this is what happened, children. So throughout the lesson, what I told you, throughout the lesson, that is the main point we are going to study, what kind of changes, right, we have got it, right, from the 1000 years, right? So what happened, children, here, if you observe, the first map, whatever they have given it. So the first map has section of the world map. So whatever the first map they have given in your page, so that is completely the world map, right? So the world map has drawn by the geographer Al-Idrisi in 1154, right? So in the sense, what, children, the point is, so the first map drawn by Al-Idrisi, right? So in 1154, right? So in the sense, what happened, children? It is approximately in the 12th century, right? In the 12th century, what happens? The one person, who was that? So Al-Idrisi, right? So he was the geographer, right? So first you should know the meaning of geographer, the person who study about the lands, right? So those are called as geographers. So the Al-Idrisi, he was a geographer. He has drawn the world map, right? So in the year of 1154, in the sense what? it is approximately in the 12th century, right? So what happens here, the showing the Indian subcontinent from the land of sea. So if you observe the map, what you will get it, children? You will get it the Indian subcontinent. So complete Indian subcontinent along with the Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar. So if you add these all the countries, that is called as what, children? That is subcontinent, right? India is a subcontinent country. In your next year you are going to study about this, right? So what he has drawn in the map, he has completely drawn world map. So he has shown the completely subcontinent of our India, right? So if you observe, you won't get very clearly because it is drawn in the long ago, that is 1154 years, right? In the year of 1154, then what happens, he has drawn by the Al-Idrisi, right? So what happens, this is our first map. Then what happens, you see the next map also. Right? The second map, whatever in your textbook you do have, the second map has drawn by the Guillaume de Islay. So it is a name of person. Guillaume de Islay, right? It was the name of a person. Even he has drawn the map, right? In the year of 1720, right? So in the sense what? 18th, this is 12th century and it is 18th century, right? So the two different maps drawn by the two different people. So the first map has drawn by the Al-Idrisi in the year of 1154. So after a long time, so what happens, the one more map has got prepared by the Guillaume de Islay, right, in the year of 1720 in the 18th century, right? So what happens here, so I told you he is a geographer, then he is a cartographer, right? There is a lot of difference between geographer and the cartographers. Then what do you mean by cartographers, right? So it is very important point what I am describing you. So the cartographers are the people, those who are preparing the map, the person who prepare the map, so them we can call the cartographers, right? So this is what, then here this person was the cartographers, right? So cartographer in the sense he has done many of the, he has framed the many of the maps among them. So whatever you are observing in your lesson, that is also prepared by him, right? So these 2 points I have made it clear. For what reason beginning of the lesson, I need to tell you, because of, if you by observing the two kinds of maps, you will observe many of the changes, right? So compared to first and second map, you get to know many of the changes. If you know, you just observe the second one map, that is very clear. Then all the the names they have written with the Arabian language, but even though whatever it may, it will be very clear. If you observe first one map, you won't get anything. Actually the map is completely ulta, right? What reason? So water body they have shown in the upside, then the land body they have shown in a northern hemisphere. So we will get lot of confusion over here, right? For this reason, the changes we can get to see in this map, right? So this is what, now we will start our chapter, right? So what do you understand in the context of this chapter, right? So what happens now, whatever we have discussed, what we have get it, children, we have get it. The when the historians read documents, text and the maps from the past, they have to be sensitive to the different historical backgrounds, the context in which information about the past was the producers. So what happens? It means, children, so the person who writes the history, he should be very sensitive and very aware, much aware of this past events, whatever happens, right? So let me explain one more time, children. If you just think yourself, I am the historian, right? So you are going to write the your family history, right? Who is your father, who is your grandfather, who was your grandfather father, right? So like these the family tree history of your family, if you want to write, right? So what you will do, children, you will asking some questions to your father, your mother and your, if the grandfather is there, right? So what happens, sometimes you will get confused, right? So all the people, they may not give the same answers everywhere, they may give the different answers, right? So then that moment you will get definitely the confusion, which is right one, right? So the same thing, if you come to map, so according to you, which map is correct? If I ask the question both in the maps, so which map is correct according to you, definitely you will get the confused. Because of this reason, children, because we people were not alive on that moment. In the past, in the sense what, only we can collect the materials, then we can write it, but we did not see from our eyes. So for this reason, what, when the writing the history, it should be, the historian should be very sensitive, then very much aware of the context produces whatever the past, right? So this is what, when the historians read the documents, text and the maps from the past, they have to be sensitive, we have to be very carefully, right? So what happens, the historical backgrounds, the context in which information about the past was produced, right? So they must the study very carefully, right? So whatever the map, whatever the monuments, right, they used to collect the information for the history, right? They should be very sensitive, right? So this is all about what, this is all about the tracing changes the through 1,000 years, how the map has got changed, right, during this years, right? So let's start our first point of the lesson, children, that is new and old terminologies. Right? So here new and old terminologies. We are going to study in this point the terminologies old and new. Right? So what happens, children? And the information changes with the time. Right? So one thing I must tell you, children, here. So whatever the information, so the same information, it is going to change with the time. Right? So how come? So let me explain. So what happens, if you think you today you are absent for the class, so social science teacher so I have given the homework, right? So answer, I have given the question, you need to write the answers. So what happens here, children? So what you will do, you will take the book of your friend, the homework whatever he has done, you will get it the book from him. So what you will do, you will copy the same answer what he has written, so same copy you want to do. So what happened here, children? While copying the same text, you will make many of the changes, right? You are not a Xerox machine, as how it is there, the same you won't write it never happens, right? So some changes you will do. Right, it may grammar mistakes, it may vocabulary, it may sentence also, you can put more sentence or you can make less sentence. In the sense, so while copying the information, while sharing, while making copy, the information always it will get changed with the time, right? So let me general example I will give. So what is the example general? So if you think about the computer, nowadays what kind of computers we do have children? We do have some like a small one, like a laptop, what we people are calling, right? So compared to before, when the Charles Babbage has the discovered the computer, so it was not the same form. So it was such a huge one, right? So it may take the places, so complete one room, right? So such a huge computer he has discovered, right? So but by the time being, the technology has got improved, then what happens, the laptop has become very small, in the sense technology has developed. So the same thing over here, the information will continuously changes with the time being. How the time is going, even the information is also going to change, right? Then what happens, the language and the meaning then can also change, right? So what happens here, the language and the meaning can also change. How come? How the language will get changed? So if you take particular language of Kannada, right? So in Kannada, so probably in your 9th 10th you may get some poems, like Halegannada, right? So commonly we can't read it because of the whatever the nowadays we people are using Kannada, it is completely different from them, right? So again in Kannada language there are 3 sections. So old Kannada, then medieval Kannada, and recent Kannada. ನಡುಗನ್ನಡ, ಹಳೆಗನ್ನಡ, ನಡುಗನ್ನಡ ಮತ್ತು ಹೊಸಗನ್ನಡ. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದರೆ 3 ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ಹಿಯರ್, ಇವನ್ ದ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಟೈಮ್, ಇವನ್ ದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಗೆಟ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್, right? If you take whatever language, so all the language has developed, right? They have improved with the time, right? So what happens in the medieval, so in your textbook they have given the example of Persian, right? The Persian is a language used by the Persia country people, right? So what happens, medieval Persian, modern Persian. So what happens children, so they have taken the examples of medieval Persian nation, then the ancient. In the old and new, what I told you here, old and new terminologies, right? The Persian language they have used in a different form in the old terminologies, then the completely it is changes to the new terminology, right? So what happens here, in the Persian language, the old compared to modern Persian language, so completely the old Persian language is completely different. So how come? Even the are different the vocabulary and even the grammar also. Even the grammar and vocabulary also got changed, right? So one example I will give here about the example about the Hindustan. Right? So now I have taken the word of vocabulary. This is what is vocabulary. So this vocabulary what I have taken here, Hindustan, right? So if I take the Hindustan nowadays, if I say, close children, close your eyes. If I say Hindustan word, so what you will get it children? Complete Indian map in front of you, it will come, right? So it is going to come in front of you, the complete the map of our India, because we have considered the Hindustan is nothing but another name of our India, right? So Indian nation, it has another one name, that is Hindustan nowadays, right? But what happens, long ago in the Persian, right, in the 30th century, so this is first and here it is second. So what happens children here, so Miraj I Siraj, right? So the Miraj-i-Siraj was the name of a person who was the citizen of the Persia. He was the Persian historian, right? He was writing the history, right? What was the name children? So Miraj-i-Siraj. So what happened children? the same word, the same vocabulary used by this person also, but according to him, according to his perspective, what is the Hindustan? Hindustan is the only area the between Ganga and Yamuna, right? So in which the people they are staying with a group of people near the bank of the rivers of Ganga and Yamuna. For example, so in complete India, so where the Ganga and Yamuna, right? So this has given in your textbook also, we can get to see. So what happens, children? So here the bank of the rivers of Ganga and Yamuna, in the sense what? The Punjab and the Haryana. So this particular area, right? So what happens? The Miraj I Siraj, he has used the vocabulary of Hindustan only for this region. According to him, what is Hindustan? Hindustan is only this much, right? The area which has governed by the Delhi Sultan, right? So this the Delhi area. So in ancient time, what happens in Indian history? So this area is ruled by Delhi Sultans, right? So according to Miraj I Siraj, what happens? He has used the word of Hindustan only for this area, right? So according to us, the Hindustan is complete India. So according to Miraj I Siraj, so what happens? This area is only Hindustan. So one more person is there. So the third person is Babar, right? So who is a Babar here? So Babar, you have heard the name of Akbar, right? So Akbar's father was the Humayun. Then Humayun's father was the Babar, right? In the sense what, children? So the Babar is the grandfather of Akbar. Is it clear? So what happens? The Babar, even he has used this term of Hindustan for according to Babar's perspective, right? So Babar used the term to describe the geography of culture of subcontinent. For what reason he has used the Hindustan word, children? So whatever the Indian subcontinent, so even this Pakistan, so Afghanistan, Nepal, some part of China, even this Bangla, then Maldives, Sri Lanka. So this is all together called as the subcontinent. So what are the culture was going on here? So what was the culture these people were following in particular area? For this culture, what he has used? This is the culture of Hindustan. He has used the term of Hindustan for the culture of the Indian subcontinent, right? So according to the Babar. So in the sense what happens? So completely the meaning is got changed, right? According to us, the Hindustan is complete India. According to Miraj and Siraj, so this much is only the Hindustan. Then according to Babar perspective, so complete whole subcontinent, the culture of the subcontinent. So this is what, children. So by studying this, you can get to know the language, the vocabulary, even the grammar will get to change continuously, right, by the time being. So tomorrow further discussion, tomorrow we will have. Until bye, be safe.